Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of the 2023 season of Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button, rate, review us on our Process to Perform channel on YouTube. You can hit me up at MikeWall68 on Twitter or Process to Perform on Instagram. Got a lot of requests to do some different stuff. And this week, I wanted to start out by somebody, everyone's always asking me because there's a lot of stuff on social media. There's a ton of bad information on social media about how to block, how to tackle, how to receive, if you're playing offensive line, defensive line, what makes a good pass protection? Like what makes a good set? What makes a good rep? What the players that are successful, what do they look like? When they're, we could go through everything, but I see so many, and listen, you want everybody's out there to make a living. So I respect everybody's ability and want to make a living. Some of the stuff we're teaching is just non-logical. Okay. And so what I wanted to do today is just pull some tape out of some guys in the NFL, some really good players, some guys that are still up and coming, pull some clips of some good matchups, and just demonstrate just what are the basic concepts. Like, what should you really be coaching your pass protectors? If you really want to make guys good, what should you be coaching? Because if you go to any National Football League practice right now, you got coaches teaching them a bunch of different sets for a bunch of different situations. They don't practice all of those sets, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, whatever, 5,000 times. So they're not experts. They get into games, they try these sets, their footwork's not right, their body position is not right, their punch isn't great, and they lose. Now, whether or not they lose and the quarterback gets rid of the ball, or whether or not they don't get rid of the ball, they give up a sack or a quarterback hit, they lose. And we're trying to win. And that's the thing that we sometimes forget, and especially in the offensive line room. Like when we're going forward, we're always trying to win, right? If we're run blocking, we're trying to win. We're trying to assert our dominance. But when we're going backwards, we're playing pass, where it's pass pro. It's like we take away that aggressiveness, and we're just hoping not to lose, because that's the way that we've been graded. That's the way that we were talked about. That's the way unfortunately, most of the attention that offensive line gets is negative attention. So when I work with guys, and kind of what I figured out towards the second half of my career, when I thought things were going pretty well for me, is you don't play to not lose. You play to win. You play to dominate. You play to assert your character and your authority and your dominance over your opponent. So with that, it just comes down to some very, very basic things. And the first game I wanted to use, I use this with a lot of clients just to demonstrate this guy's the best player in the league. Talking now about Trent Williams. He's been, he's like 8-time All-Pro, and he's just a phenomenal football player. He's going to be a surefire Hall of Fame. He's playing against Von Miller. This is a couple years ago, and the reason that I like showing this tape is that Trent Williams doesn't do everything. Like Trent Williams is kind of like a Larry Allen. He's unorthodox in that a lot of guys in the league just most of the guys in the league can't flat out move, react, bend, be explosive as he can. Okay. So he's a little bit one of those anomalies physically, but it's really simple. When he gets to his spot under control, it's a battle of real estate. When Trent Williams gets to a spot under control, in this case, you look at where he needs to get you. Jimmy Garoppolo's got a 3-step, 5-step drop. You see the angle of the defensive end. At least initially, he's showing outside linebacker, showing he's rushing to this angle. So basically, Trent Williams needs to get to that red dot balanced in good body position, hip hinge position, hands inside, not showing a lot of chest. We talk about top of the helmet, shoulder pads, and hands is the profile we want to show to the defensive end. You square the line of scrimmage for 3 kicks. You start turning after that, because at that point, if you get there and you get to be somewhat pointed towards the line of scrimmage after that amount of time, the defensive end has to make a decision. Am I going to go through you, or am I going to go upfield? Because I don't have any other moves. You've run out of options as a defensive end, especially when you have the ability to keep that guy at length. So we're going to punch through a couple of these or actually a lot of these with Trent and Von. When Trent Williams gets back to his position, he wins every single time. When he gets wide, he loses more than he wins. It's just like everybody else. When you go off script, when you start doing something different, you lose. And you might not lose and give up a sack. You might not lose and give up a pressure. But if you're watching the film at home, if you're the player, you go, man, I didn't win that rep, right? Because I didn't get my hands on him. He beat me inside. quarterback got rid of the ball, et cetera, et cetera. Like we can start talking away, BS, PFF grades and all this nonsense. But when the players are sitting and watching how they're doing, they're looking at their process. When you look at wins and losses, you're looking about, did I do my process right? And because of that, did I put myself in a position to be successful? Or did I go off script? Did I click my heels? Did I put my hands too low? Did I turn too early? Did I do something that gives the opponent the advantage? So we look here. You're trying to get to that spot. You got the wide 3 technique. Always be aware of the wide 3. So that means there could be a potential game there with the TE game. And so Trent does a great job of getting back to that spot. You see he scored a line of scrimmage, so he can absorb that defensive tackle. Okay. Now you'd like to see, if you were in a great position, be able to attack that defensive tackle. I think that defensive tackle is Aaron Donald, by the way, so it makes it pretty difficult. But you pass this off, you're in a position to be successful. You'd like to be able to drop back and attack the penetrator a little bit more. If you had square a little bit better base width, you'd be able to do that easier. But just from a pass rush, one-on-one, or playing the game, you're in a position to be successful. For only reason, let's forget the hands, let's forget everything else. You have a good solid base underneath you. You're pointed towards the line of scrimmage. You haven't turned. So the defensive end at the top of this rush, he only had one option: go underneath, or 2 options: go underneath or just keep running upfield. That is not the great Aaron Donald. Look at it again. Same concept. We got a wide rusher. We got almost a 4 technique out here. Kicks out. And he kicks out here. And so you look at this position and it looks like he's beat. Now Jimmy Garoppolo's on a short drop here. So he turns on 2. He's in a position to get picked. And he's in a position now when he has contact, he drops his foot. He looks like he's beat here, but because of the 3-step drop, even though he's beat, the defensive end cannot just run clean to the quarterback. He has to still travel upfield. So because it's a 3-step drop, it doesn't look like he's in a bad position. But the reality is, if we're watching this, you're not able to help your guard on that wide 4 technique. You're not able to keep that inside hand. And really, you're not in a good position here. You drop your back foot and you give up that edge, but he gets pushed by, because as we have this on this rectangle, Von Miller has to get essentially 4 or 5 yards of lateral movement, and he has about, a foot and a half of vertical movement to play with. So it's very difficult with a 330-pound tackle, even pushing with one arm off balance, to run straight across that rectangle without giving up any vertical ground. It's pushed by. See, the D tackle does make the play. So we get the wide 3 again. Now you're in this position. He's turning early. You see that his chest is pointed towards the sideline as the arrow is pointing. And he's turning actually before the defensive end is kind of challenging his leverage upfield. Okay, and again, this is the best guy in the league. I mean, this guy's surefire Hall of Famer. It's just not always perfect. That's the point. Because when the sets are inconsistent, everybody's inconsistent. And what happens in these situations is you give up that inside move to the tackle, because that tackle, you can't attack that tackle because you've turned too early. So you can talk about what the guard's doing, if he's doing a great job or not. His hands are extended, but did he really get a good punch on the 3 technique? But what we look at from the tackle's perspective, what can I do to be better? Well, stay square to the line of scrimmage for as long as possible, because 94 hasn't challenged your leverage. And now you can drive back on this defensive tackle and stop this TE game in its tracks. Obviously, these are simple answers to difficult problems. It's not easy to do, but conceptually, it's very easy to understand. If we just teach one thing all the time and get really good at that one thing, we don't have any of these problems. So right now you have this 5 technique, bigger player, and they're going to have confrontation right at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't really have to go anywhere. You just take one small kick and you have confrontation. Now you can get your hands inside so you don't get bowled back and whatnot. Okay, but it's relatively easy. And that's kind of the base concept of how do we pass pro? We get to that spot under control and we have a confrontation. You're right between me and the quarterback. I'm right between the quarterback and the defensive end. Excuse me. You're going to have to either go through me, because going around me is going to take too much time. Now you see the hand extension here. He has kicked out, and now he's being the aggressor. And this is what you'd love to see, regardless of, we could forget about the footwork and the body position, everything. He's got a hip hinge here, but he is the aggressor. He's got a punch and extend, keep the guy away from his body. He's punching him before I think this is Floyd is ready to get his move. And so because of that, even though he's going to turn and open up, because of this punch, there's just nowhere for the defensive end to go. In other words, if he just keeps going upfield, there's no way he can make the turn. So now it turns into that bull rush. And if you're Trent Williams and you're playing against a 260-pound defensive end, you're going, please bull rush me all day. Does a great job here. If this is what we were talking about earlier, I know this defensive end is not challenging his leverage as much as outside linebacker, but you stay square to the line of scrimmage. You help that guard on the wide rush 9 or 3 technique. And now you're just in a great position later on to force that defensive end. Like, you got to bull rush me because you can't go over the top. The quarterback's going to be gone. You're not going to go underneath because I've already shut the door on that. Now, if you kick out like he does here, now what happens? And the most obvious thing here to me is when you kick out, you're getting to that real estate spot. You're going to have that confrontation, but you're not ready. And you can see he's not ready because he's catching 54 right in the chest. This is, again, first ballot. I can't say this enough. Trent Williams is so much better than I ever hoped to be, right? We're critiquing some technique things so we can learn from off of one of the best players. Even at this level, with this level of player, when you catch, when your arms are outside, when you go, but it all stems from, I'm not really ready to have confrontation. 54 has his hands inside on my chest and bull rushing me. I'm in a bad position. I've turned early, and I just got to that spot before my 330-pound body was ready to have a fight. And because of that, he's in this bad situation, and he ends up getting bulled all the way back to the quarterback by a guy who's 260 pounds. Like, that doesn't happen unless he's not ready for that fight. Now, most of you are guessing, hey, Trent Williams should go to that red circle. Okay, if he goes to the red circle, he's got no problems because that guy cannot go through him. He's not big enough. He's not strong enough. And if he gets to that red circle and is relatively square to the line of scrimmage, the defensive end has to either go through him or go upfield. And if he goes upfield, he will not be able to make the turn. The quarterback doesn't even need to step up in the pocket and will be in a perfect position to throw without being bothered. If he goes to the blue, he's got all kinds of problems. So we go to the blue and we turn early. We drop the back foot. And now the inside, because you dropped that back foot and you're turned all the way around and you haven't even let the defensive end challenge your leverage yet, that inside hand, that stab hand by the defensive end is going to be able to open this up to the inside if he wants. He gives up the inside move. He gives up the inside lane. He has to open up like the hand of a clock all the way around and give that lane. 45 almost makes a play on a future Hall of Famer for no other reason, really, than it's just not good initial technique. See it one more time in live. And a lot of guys will say, well, he missed with his hands. That's why. Yeah, he missed with his hands, but you're not in position to win with your feet. We don't need to talk about all these different sets. We don't need, you can talk about hands all day. It's, look, if a good hand can kind of save a bad play, your feet win every time. You notice that he's got almost a 4-eye here against him. And then you got the wide outside rusher. Look at he does a good job of just holding. Now, again, the defensive end really hasn't challenged his leverage. He doesn't need to do anything here. So he just sits, he waits, comes back. It's just it looks like nothing because nothing happened on the defensive side. Just a masterful job. Think about what a value any left tackle is to that guard, or right tackle to that guard against a 4-eye, a wide 3 technique. If you can leave your hand out there and literally stop, after 2-3 kicks, just stop the play, stop the momentum. Same idea here. You just stay square. Easy to say, hard to do for a lot of guys. If you just stay square, you just fall right into these games. You go wide here. You see he's got a little bit different stance. Sometimes a lot of these guys start switching their stances up now. And I know with a lot of the RPO stuff, and it doesn't necessarily matter as much. Like people don't care as much. Like it still really matters to me because I don't like tipping anybody off. Because in situations like this, if I know he's like that, he's going to go wide. I'm going to take that inside. Now, again, hey, Mike, we got a quick screen. You were trying to do this and that. Dude, a National Football League player never wants to feel like this situation. Like, oh, do I have to hold him or is he going to hit the quarterback? Okay. You just never want to feel like this. And the only reason you feel like this is because you take a set that is unnecessary. We don't practice that set if we're not doing that 1,000 times a week, if we're not, or whatever it is, 1,000 times in our year to practice that set, why take it in a National Football League game? Winning every single rep. Just look at these different sets. Great play. Now, this is Von. And you see by the body language, you got a 5 technique. Okay. And you've got Von's got to go upfield here just based on his body language. So he could turn, but you see, like Trent Williams already knows this guy's going upfield. And so when you take that kind of angle upfield, now it's like, okay, what can he do from here? He's running such a wide play because they're really going to try to do some stuff inside that it's like he's going to run himself out of the play. I mean, he's 6 yards, 5 yards from Jimmy Garoppolo, Von Miller. And it's not by design necessarily, but it's like they're doing some stuff inside. I'm not taking this play off, but I do have outside contain. I'm just going to take advantage of outside contain. So all you have to do as a tackle is like, you want to go there? Let's go there. Let's make it easy. Let's not try to short set him or do anything stupid where he can just stab and go and turn me real quick or give him any reason to do that thing other than that thing that he's already planning on doing, which is I'm going to run upfield this play, kind of take a play off. All right. Show David Bakhtiari because he does such a good job for a different reason. Box got unorthodox stance, set, and everything. Bakhtiari's figured this thing out, this idea that I just need to get to my real estate spot faster than the other guy. And so Bakhtiari's got 2 things going for him. He might be the best in the business at releasing from his stance right as the ball's moving. So he gets back before the defensive end, the outside linebacker, before that guy's even really ready to rush. Bakhtiari's already created space. He creates space in his stance. He creates space in his initial kick. And then he just settles down, and he's really, really good with both hands. Inside hands win all the time for Bakhtiari. So that's what makes him a special player. He's just so those are really, really basic things. I want to emphasize that. This is really basic stuff. Put yourself in a stance to win. Get off the ball. Get away from that player as fast as you can. All right. And then win with your inside hands. So you see already if the ball right now is on, it looks like if we just said the first white line on the top of the field we saw was the 10, he's on like the 7, the ball's on the 17. And back's back foot is on the 19. Right. So he's got 2 yards back because now for every time you move your foot back, your hip goes back. So your center of gravity, your mass is further back. So if I'm standing with my feet on the 18, on both feet are on the 18, my hips are on the 18. If one of my feet is back behind the 19 and a half, well, now my hips are back 18 and a half, 19-yard line. So I'm actually back further than is maybe perceived because of the line of scrimmage. So I've already created space in my stance as long as I can use that and still explode out of my stance off that inside foot. So we look at Bakhtiari, just does an amazing job of just getting off the ball right here. Out. And so he's already created this ridiculous separation. He's already in a position because I think, he knows he obviously is a master of is it a 3-step, is it a hitch, is it a 5, is it a 7, etc. He already knows where the quarterback's going to set up. He's already right. The line between Aaron Rodgers and the defensive end goes right through his back. So in other words, if you want to get to Rodgers already, because he's already created that separation, if you want to get to him, you got to go right through me. Otherwise, if you go upfield right now, please do. Please go upfield and run by. If you want to bull rush me, I got inside hands because I'm sitting here waiting on you. I've got great body position. He just sits and settles. Inside hand, takes a bull. Guy gets rid of the ball. Look at the get off here, though. The ball, the hand of the center is just moving now. He's already back. Nobody's out of their stance. No defensive player, no offensive player. Nobody has moved. And he's already going to be ahead of the game against Brandon Graham. Again, if you look at Brandon's looking at this like, okay, whatever my plan was, he's already covered me up. So what do I have to do now? I'm already covered up. It's happening faster than I thought it was. Bakhtiari is one of those few tackles that he's actually getting to that spot so fast that the defensive end's always out of rhythm. You know, the defensive end's job is to kind of disrupt the rhythm of the tackle here. But Bakhtiari is so fast out of his stance, he actually screws up the rhythm of the defensive end. So what does he have to do? Well, what are my options? I'm already covered up. I can't go upfield anymore. I got an inside mover or bull rush, which, by the way, he's really good at sitting on. So he's just got outside hands. He does a good job of extending. He can just hang on the bull. Look at a different player here. Just something to pick up. I was just watching this stuff. So left hand down. Okay. Not enough offensive linemen are looking at this. Not enough coaches are teaching this. Your linemen have to understand what foot is back for the defensive tackle, defensive end. For example, against Jon Runyan Jr. here, if that left hand is down and his left foot's down, what does that mean? That means that when he takes his first step, his left foot, that means his outside foot is going to hit the deck. And something's either going to happen there, or it's really for the guard. It's really not going to happen. Like, in other words, on his outside foot, if he doesn't come inside, he's going straight. Because when that inside foot hits, he can now immediately make a hard left on the screen, a hard right to him, and try to take that A gap. It's going to happen like that because it's his first step. If it doesn't happen like that, then he's got to take another one. He's got to cycle through. He's got to go left foot, right foot, back to left foot before he goes back in or tries to start a bull at that point. So you got to understand this stuff. It matters even more at the defensive end position. You look at really good players. Look like Bosa, for example. You can kind of look at Bosa's stance and go, well, he's probably doing one of these two things. Now he's got stuff off of that, but his base moves out of right hand down, left hand down are pretty evident because he's got to do a move on the second or the third step now. We see this play. And if you don't recognize what's going on, you can get beat inside real fast. It's simple to get beat if you take that step flat, like Jon Runyan Jr. did here. If you take that flat step and you see that outside hand down, something's happening on the first step. That's the only reason you put your hand down that way. If you're going to run a TE, if you're going to run a chop club rip, anything else, these defensive linemen do all their stuff on timing, just like everybody else. So he's not going to mix up his putting that hand down if he doesn't have something different planned. The other thing that Packers have always done since I played there, they use spacing to create width. It cleans up the passing lanes. It cleans up the running lanes. And so what happens is a guy like Bakhtiari doesn't have to feel like he has to create this excess width to the pocket. So he can sit back fast and then he can kind of settle. He's kind of settles with his backside towards the quarterback. And he can do that because there's so much space. They've created space in their stance. So he's got right there from the ball to him is, 4.5 yards of space. He gets off fast. And now when they make initial contact, and again, if you see right before this contact, '94, good player. He's taking his two, and he's like, he's covered me up already. I have nowhere to go but inside. I have to go inside or I have to take a bull move because there's no way I'm getting over the top. And he's backed up, so the space between him, if he goes inside, Bakhtiari has time to react. It's all about getting to your real estate spot under control. This is why this guy's been so good for so long. Wins with that inside hand. Really masterful job of that inside hand. Different stance here. Now, I showed this, and he doesn't get beat. This is, somebody probably calls this a sack. This isn't he doesn't get beat here, but I want to demonstrate what happens in terms of the geometry of the pocket when you run at somebody. So this is a play action, under center play action pass, and he's been told, I got to go run and get sweat, number 94. the reason I have the rectangle is now you see where his feet are, and you see at the top, the kitty corner of the top left of the rectangle is where Aaron Rodgers is going to set up. That's where his feet are. So now Sweat can get the edge because you've attacked him. You can go outside, you can go inside. Now Bakhtiari's got great hands, and he's going to have a really hard time getting off him. But you just see, just from a real estate, a square footage, a square yardage space, that rectangle, that's a lot of space, man. So now you have to hold on to this guy, and he's got essentially, the entire hash mark to hash mark to get 7 yards of depth. That's a lot of space to play with. And again, this is the consequence of holding on to the ball. And he's not, I don't think anybody in the right mind is going to say he got beat here for a sack. Okay. But I'm telling you, it's never going to be as clean. You are going to be able to run the corner when you ask your guys to run and sell that play action pass. Everybody knows the consequences of this. My point of bringing this up is, if you're doing it here and you understand the consequences, why would you just teach your guys to short set in a situation where they don't even have that like full throttle under center defensive ends reading what's going on? Like when they're actually going to pass rush you, like, oh, I want an angle set, I want a short set. You're giving up the short corner every single play. You can do things right 8 out of 10 times, 85% of the time, 90% of the time. If you give up a sack a game, you're fired. If you get a sack a game, you're in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So it's not a question of, well, 9 times out of 10, I beat him. 8 times out of 10, I beat him. But you got to do it right every time. And you can't do it right every time if you're trying to, oh, this time I'm going to run at him. This time I'm going to short set. This time I'm going to do. It doesn't work because we don't practice it enough. I think we're going to watch the Packers defense against some of the Bears guys. So the Bears guys actually do a pretty good job. They got some young players. And I know that Braxton Jones was a high pick last year. But I want to show a couple different things that happened in this game. 75 does a good job here against the Packers' top pass rusher, Rashawn Gary, because Rashawn's going straight up field. He sets square, and he gets that hand out here. He gets that hand, and even though he's kind of opening up, he almost opens up to a square to the line or square to the sideline. He's not rotating that back foot all the way over towards Justin Fields. And so he's from a position of strength here. And now it's just going to be a question of, if Rashawn Gary wants to get there, he's got a bull. He can't rip through or rip under because there's just not enough space to get to the quarterback. I know it's like, Mike, it's a 3-step drop. We're trying to win every rep, right? You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know when the quarterback's going to hold the ball. You don't know when he's going to get rid of it fast. We're trying to win every rep. Okay, now, different scenario. Rashawn Gary is coming not upfield. He's coming at that angle. You come at that angle, a little bit different. This is the best rush in football. I'm talking about that angle because when you get to that angle, you make that tackle kick 2 or 3 times, and he's got to figure out, do I stop my feet? Where is he going? Do I try to turn now? How do I time that inside hand? Guys get cut 1, 2. Now you see his feet are about to click. This guy's done. He's lucky he didn't fall down. Preston gets the sack, but really the play's on Gary. You look over there again, and you just want to show you're punching through your shoulders, you're patty caking. You're not going, we call hips to hands. You got to punch with your hips. Like the contact with the ground matters. 2 feet contact with the ground, punch low to high, hips to hands. Get your palms up, your thumbs underneath. If you're just playing patty cake with a guy who's running full speed, you're going to have problems. And this is just a function of, how are we teaching this? Okay, a guy set up super wide. He's gonna really try to give it to you. What's the most important? Coaches, what's the most powerful part of your body? Oh, it's posterior chain. Good. Why do we practice broad jumping and kettlebell swinging and hang cleaning and squatting? Why do we do all that? Oh, so we can get that all built up. Good. So why are we teaching them to punch through their shoulders like this? Makes no sense. Pulling over. Look at the other side with the rookie last year. And all we're showing is if you're not in a hip hinge, if you're not in an athletic position, if you're tall, and Preston Smith here does a good job of just taking that hard angle right to Justin Fields. But 70's not getting to his real estate spot. Like, he didn't explode out of his stance. He's still, he's not in a position for success here. He's short because he's going a little bit wide, because he's not going back, because he doesn't explode out of his stance. And so all you got to do is you just take that rip. And now all of a sudden, when you get shoulder to chest on a tackle, you've won, because you can spin, you can club, you can rip. If you get shoulder to chest, I can start. I'm vulnerable. I can't use my hands. I haven't created any space for myself, right? So now the better athlete has the advantage. Real simple concepts. Again, nobody ever notices that play, but you just don't want to be put in that situation. You want to keep that guy away from your body. Punch, extend, get the defensive end away from your body, create that space so you can recover. If he spins, great. I just work it off my hands. A couple more here. Jacksonville, a lot of people don't like Jacksonville's line. I thought, first of all, bringing in Brandon Schreff, the right guard, was a huge deal. I thought their tackles played well last year. I know the right tackle left, and I know Cam Robinson is now injured, but generally, or not injured. I think is he on PUP, or he's missing 4 games for some reason, one reason or another. These guys showed out well though against Micah Parsons and 90 DeMarcus Lawrence, who's a fantastic rusher. But we watch 74 here, and it's like, well, what makes this a good pass set? He explodes out of his stance. So right now, you see both these guys, especially the right tackle, square to the line of scrimmage, in really good positions. In other words, both of them are ready for confrontation. They're where they need to be. They're under control. They have great body position, great balance. They got hands in position to strike inside to inside, and so they're going to both win. It's a simple game. As good as the guys they're playing are, if you get into your body position, you win like 99% of the time. He's got that huge stagger, gets out, and he punches and extends here. So he got back to this position to force DeMarcus Lawrence to do a move before maybe DeMarcus wanted to, or in a body position where DeMarcus really doesn't have it. Even if DeMarcus Lawrence goes outside here, the right tackle would have to fall down for him to get the edge. Like, he's head up to the right tackle here. He'd have a better chance going inside, but if he tries to go outside, you'd have to whiff or fall down for him to get the edge. Instead, he really gets that left hand extended here, knocks him all the way on the ground. Great job. Because you got the 2 defensive ends lined up, what do? Just keep it simple. Hey, feel the first one, stay square, extend him out, make the read. In this position right here, and you have the inside, you have the wide receiver chipping off. I understand that. But in this position right here, if Micah Parsons goes upfield, his only option is to try to run the loop or bull rush. And if he bull rushes, he's bull rushing into 3 dudes. Right? Like, there's no other move. You've taken the wide 3 technique takes away the B gap unless you set wide. Good job by 75. Great job. Now, this is where it becomes a problem. You see, we call it punch through hips to hands, punch through the hips. So you're not punching with your hips, you're punching with your shoulders. In other words, you don't see this guy's hips moving forward, backward to forward. So he becomes top heavy. When you become top heavy, you see there as he's punching, all the power's coming through his shoulders. He's going to be leaning. You don't have that base anymore. In other words, you've been taught to kind of play this upright motion instead of playing like an athlete. And what does an athlete do? An athlete gets in a hip hinge position, and when they try to make that great contact with the ground and punch out or swing or develop any kind of power, they do it through their posterior chain of their hips. They don't just do it with their arms, because when you do it with your arms, you end up being top heavy What ends up happening? Big problems. Great job by the quarterback of being elusive here, but so I hope that makes a lot of sense as far as what you're trying to accomplish at a very, very basic level as a pass protection or a guy who's trying to coach pass protection. It's real simple. Put yourself in a stance to be successful. Your initial kicks are the most important thing you can coach. I have a line set, however you want to do it. Make sure they're consistent, make sure they're precise, make sure they're accurate. They can do them in their sleep. They're automatic. After 3 kicks, are you square to the line of scrimmage? Toes, knees, hips, shoulders. Are you in a hip hinge body position? What's the profile that you're giving to the defensive tackle or defensive end? Are you giving shoulder pads, top of the numbers, and hands? Or are you just giving the whole chest and stomach, please hit me right here? Right? It's how we coach it makes such a difference. The details that you emphasize, we call them details, they're really the most basic things of the sport. Can I get to my real estate position on under control before the defensive tackle, defensive end? Can I enter into contact under control, under balance, good body position? Can I punch through my hips? And then can I move my feet to react? If we just break those big blocks, as you see with some of these guys, you see with Trent Williams, you see with David Bakhtiari, you see with the guys in the Jack. If you do it the right way, you win. You become really, really good. And it's really not that difficult. If you focus on, hey, my coach gives me, we have an angle set, we have a deep set, we have a short set, we have a play action set, we have a run at him set. Jack of all trades, master of none. I can't tell you how many sets. I can't tell you if I went back and looked at all, let's say from year 4 to year 9, like my prime years. If you looked at all the times that I lost, got knocked over, got beat, got to give up a sack, gave up a pressure, I would bet you that 90% of those snaps, maybe even higher than that, was from me doing something stupid. Bad footwork, trying to jump out at a guy, trying to go off script, trying to do something that I just wasn't very good at because you're nervous about the situation or you think you have all these like tools in your tool belt when really you just need to be good at one of them. So that's the message. I hope this helps. If this makes sense, if you're enjoying this stuff, if you want more of it, if you want to see something, hit me up. Hit that subscribe button, rate and review us, leave comments. And then, of course, you can find me at MikeWall68 on Twitter, Process to Perform, and Instagram. Thank you for being a part of this show, and I will talk to you next time.